Welcome to Rekla Reflections, another episode of how to implement Finnish education in your classroom. Today's focus is on competencies, not content, how Finnish teachers plan differently. So here's my question for you. When you sit down and you get ready to plan, do you start with what to cover? Do you go over the lesson in the textbook and figure out what content you're going to use? Or do you think about what skills should the kids be able to do by the end of this lesson? Most of us were trained to start with the syllabus or the textbook. And the result? We're racing to get through content. We're trying to teach to the test, right? But at the end of the day, we're not always sure what students can do with what they've learned. Skills and 100% on an exam don't always connect. In Finland, they've flipped this completely. Their 2016 national curriculum reform introduced what they call transversal competencies. These are skills like communication, creativity, cultural competence, and learning to learn, just to name a few. These competencies run across all subjects. They're not just tucked into a corner. Leoma 2020 said that. Researchers like Jari Lavonen at the University of Helsinki have shown that these reforms were deliberate. Finland wanted to move away from memorization toward 21st century skills. The curriculum itself and teacher education programs were redesigned to make competencies or skills the starting point of every lesson, not an afterthought. And Finnish teachers have put this into practice. Catherine Picardo calls it competence learning brought to life, where lessons aren't just about delivering content, but about helping students apply skills in authentic ways. This approach lowers stress for teachers and students. Why? Because the goal isn't to cram in every fact, to be able to succeed on a piece of paper and exam with regurgitated information. It's to create space where kids can show their thinking, collaborate, and reflect. So why does this matter? Many teachers have shared with me, and I know from experience, the pain point of spending hours planning lessons, trying to make them engaging as best you can. But still, in the end, we're just not sure if students are really learning. Competency-first planning changes that. Instead of asking, did I cover everything? You can ask the question, can my students show this skill? What is demonstratable? Research with Finnish student teachers backs this up. They consistently report that collaboration, problem solving, and communication are not only what they practice most, but also what they feel most prepared to bring into their classroom. This is from an article in 2022. That shift makes planning lighter, not heavier. It increases the energy. It doesn't drain us. You're no longer weighed down by a checklist. You're designing experiences. Instead of focusing on the 10 facts that students need to memorize, you're focusing on how the students will take that information and apply it in real life. And each student will be able to do that in their own unique way. So let's give this practical application. Let's bring it into the classroom. Imagine you're teaching a science lesson on plants, for example. If we follow the traditional content-first planning method, students are going to be memorizing plant parts, labeling diagrams, and taking a quiz. If we shift to focus on competencies first, skills, right? Students will work in groups to test how plants grow under different conditions. One group maybe tries the difference between light versus dark growth, light rooms versus dark rooms. Another tries maybe how much water or no water a plant can survive in, and they track those results, they create a chart, and they share their findings. So both groups, yes, they will learn plant parts, but in the competency-first version, kids are also practicing collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and the learning becomes deeper. It's physical, it's hands-on, eyes focused on images and plants and touching and feeling, and the information that they're learning goes deeper and is remembered longer. And research shows this isn't just theory. When Finnish teachers redesign objectives this way, and they move to learning lesson outcomes instead of lesson objectives, moving from what I'll cover to what students can show, they produce stronger engagement, deeper learning, and visible evidence of growth. Also from Lavonen and Salmela-Aro in 2021. So you might be asking, great, that sounds wonderful, but how do I start? Let's make this practical. Here are 3 ways to bring competencies into your planning this week. Number 1, flip the objective. Take one lesson objective and rewrite it. Instead of students will learn about fractions, try students will be able to compare fractions using counters and explain their reasoning to a partner. That's exactly the shift Finnish guides recommend. Teacher intention moves to student evidence. All right, number 2, plan for evidence, not just notes. Ask yourself, what will my students create today that shows their learning? It could be a chart, a reflection, a short video, a quick group presentation. Finnish teachers talk about collecting learning artifacts, products that parents and leaders can see as proof of learning rather than just paperwork. So the learning becomes evidence throughout the process. Parents and leadership don't have to wait until the exam papers come to see if the students learned what they needed to. Instead, they can see throughout the whole process that the students are actually learning what needs to be learned. And number 3, keep the path flexible. In Finland, outcomes are fixed, but methods are open. So one student might draw, another might build, another might present orally. The point is the skill, the competency, not uniformity. The freedom builds agency and reduces stress. So how do parents and leaders see this? How do they give it value? Here's something important. Parents and school leaders aren't actually impressed by thick binders of lesson plans. If the classroom feels chaotic or kids can't explain what they've learned, it doesn't matter how detailed your lesson plan is. If it doesn't demonstrate that the kids are learning, then the lesson planning needs to be adjusted. So what impresses leadership and parents most is these learning artifacts, the proof, right? The charts, the posters, the journals, and even short reflections that make learning visible. Finnish researchers like Ranta and Kangas call this pedagogical competence. It's not just about delivering material, but about building evidence of student growth, values, and reflection into everyday teaching. That's what makes competency-first planning so powerful. Parents see it right away. They can see the artifacts as soon as they're done. Leaders see it as they observe your class. They can see, even though there might be play or group activities, which can look from the outside a bit chaotic, by the end of the lesson, you have visible proof that the students learned the concept, and teachers can feel it. There is progress, right? You actually finish your day knowing that what you did today made an impact for them. And for those of my audience that are in Kenya and transitioning to the CBC system, this is exactly what CBC is calling us to do. CBC isn't about racing through textbooks. It's about building competencies like communication, collaboration, and problem solving. And these things can be done with minimal resources. It's more the group activity, it's more the conversation, it's more the deeper engagement, critical thinking ideas. Finland gives us proof that this works. Their reforms, their teacher education, and their classrooms all show that when you start with competencies, content falls into place naturally and learning goes deeper. So here's my reflection question for you today. If you looked at your next lesson plan, what competency would you put at the center? From that point, then you can think, what artifact of learning could you collect instead of just a quiz? Make those 2 simple switches And you will begin to see how the shift, even in the classroom moment, changes. And if you're not sure how to get started or you want to know more, I have created the From Content to Competency How-To series. It's a guidebook that will walk you through. It's packed with examples, templates, and adaptations for large classes and low resource settings. It gives you a clear step-by-step way to shift from content-heavy plans to competency-driven teaching. You'll find it in the link in my notes. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, may your planning feel lighter and your teaching feel more alive.